Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, welcome. As you know, I'm Kim Serafini. I am the founder, creator, and CEO of Positive Prime Technology. It isn't my first invention that I've turned into a business. My first was actually lithotherapy. But if I'm really telling the truth, it was actually something that I did as a teenager. I would make these beautiful homewares that you put photographs into that had Liberty material. Does anyone know what Liberty, the brand from England, their material? And so there were these photo frames and they were made out of material that I glued onto cardboard stencils. Anyway, I sold them at the local fancy gift shop. It was probably my first foray. I'd had grandparents who were entrepreneurial, who went to Papua New Guinea and created businesses there. So I think I was born with entrepreneurial spirit in my DNA. And I'm still here. I'm still here. I am super excited for today. This is one of my favorite programs to do. I really feel like I'm well qualified. I really do. I really feel like I'm well qualified for today. We know, because it's been scientifically proven, that when you are positively primed, you actually learn more in any situation in which one of the objectives is learning. You actually, and this has been scientifically proven, you recall more because you've retained more. And what's really fascinating is it's also been scientifically proven that you apply more of what you learned. So I would say that for anything and everything we want to do, we definitely, we want to be primed, positively primed, because we want to learn more, we want to retain more, we want to recall more when it's necessary, and we want to apply more. Okay. All right. So for those of you who have not been positively primed yet, let's do something, shall we? This is actually the PowerPoint presentation, but I'm going to just move my little bar here, and I'm going to take you to an experience that will allow you to be positively primed for 3 minutes. Are you up for that? Okay. Now, I've muted the music here and I'm not sharing the music, but you can listen to any music you like. I'm going to suggest you listen to something that is enriching. For me, Paraliminals by Paul Shealy through Learning Strategies is what I listened to many years ago. I can't wait to share with you some of these stories. So let's just breathe super deeply through our nose for the count of 4. Try and hold for the count of 6 and try to breathe out through your mouth ever so slowly for a count of 8. Ready? Breathe in for a count of 4 through your nose. Hold for a count of 6 and breathe out slowly for a count of 8 if you can. Just do that a couple of times while you're watching. I'm going to stop sharing that for a second. And I'm actually going to explain to you that what we were doing was we were watching on YouTube. I don't know if any of you noticed that, did you? No, yes, yes, no. Okay. I'm going to explain to you what and why and how that actually worked. And I'm a bit excited about that. All right, so perhaps what I could ask for you all to do is bear with me while I make Mayumi the co-host so that she can let more participants in. I'm just looking for her in the list of people. Alrighty, so make Mayumi the co-host. We've done that. Thank you for bearing with me on that. Everybody got a glass of water? Everybody got pen and piece of paper? Is everybody ready to go? Okay. Alrighty. So let's do something interesting, and let's start with a little bit of structure. Tell you what you're in for. Okay. I actually am well known by my friends, and that's because I think that they see the real me behind the Zoom camera on a regular, consistent basis. I think that they see the life I've manifested over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And they, when they introduce me to their friends, actually say, Kimbo is one of these people whose dreams have come true. And yet, so many people I know who are into vision boards, personal development, self-improvement, who are into goal setting, who have coaches or who are coaches, life hasn't actually worked out the way that they wanted to, or some aspects of it haven't, and they haven't really been able to manifest in a magical way with serendipity and synchronicity. And so I'm going to reveal to you some of the nuances. They're very interesting, slight shifts that have allowed me to do something in terms of manifestation or goal achievement or living my bucket list that's way beyond my wildest imagination, but also it's way beyond the expectations and assumptions of the people who know me well would have applied to me. And I said something really interesting there that's a little bit of a distinction. Alrighty, so let me start screen sharing again, and we're going to start here, and you'll see that this is called Kim's personal video. No one has access to this other than me and those people I've shared it with. And I've taken a giant positive prime and I've personalized it. So let's head off here. I hope you can all see. So we are here to actually talk about bucket lists, and I'm going to share with you a really quick story about why I decided to do this program and why this program is actually 4 hours, 2 hours today or thereabouts, and 2 hours next week at exactly the same time and place, or thereabouts, anyway, about 4 hours. So I was going through something towards the end of last year, and it was a little bit of a medical crisis. And I was actually told that I needed surgery to investigate. And I think that the assumption was I had a type of cancer. And I'm here to tell you that I've had the surgery, and actually the biopsies are perfect and I don't have cancer. And the relief is way beyond extraordinary. I cannot tell you. And I did lots of energy healing on myself. So an enormous amount. I was really focused. I was really still. I wasn't busy. I was very quiet. And I did an enormous amount of energy healing on myself in the preceding weeks. But I kept thinking about this concept of a bucket list. And I've already been through, because some of you know me really well and some of you are meeting me just for the first time. I've been through my heart literally flatlining, stopping for over 20 seconds, and then me coming back alive. When people faint, which is what they thought was happening to me, their hearts don't stop. When your heart stops for longer than 10 seconds, things start to go terribly wrong inside your body really rapidly. You can end up with irreparable, irreversible kidney damage, which could lead, of course, to dialysis. You could actually end up with irreversible, irreparable situations in other organs of your body. And I'd been in a cardiac MRI, a contrast investigation, so 45 minutes in one of those huge machines. By the way, that scared the living daylights out of me, and I was absolutely traumatized by the process, and they had to sedate me because I'm terribly claustrophobic. But they had discovered that my heart was perfect. Like, not just okay for a woman in her 40s, but perfect. Perfect from a functionality point of view. I'd also had lots of other investigations, and they knew that there was nothing electrically wrong with my heart, but they couldn't figure out what was. And it's inside this community I got this incredible opportunity to meet a woman who was a retired physician who said to me, you know, Kim, you should ask your doctor about dysautonomia. It may be something for you to explore. So I've been through this process where I've thought about what's on my bucket list, and I've also thought about, is it okay for me to die? So before we dive into that, I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about that process. I'm lying in the cardiac ward. I'd been there for about a week. It was my 6th time my heart had flatlined. The interesting thing is that every single time I went completely unconscious, I fell, or at one of the occasions I was behind a car and I had a head-on collision into some trees down an embankment, but I actually went across oncoming traffic and I nearly had a head-on collision with a big truck. The crazy, amazing, weird, serendipitous, incredible part of this story is my husband happened to be driving directly behind me. He wasn't my husband at the time, but he was my lover, my best friend, my lifelong partner, but we weren't yet married. And he's driving behind me and he watches. He doesn't know I'm completely unconscious at the wheel, even though the car, and I thank the angels and God and the universal divine energy, that I'd actually somehow slumped. And so my foot had fallen off the accelerator. So my car was actually starting to go a little bit slower. But interestingly enough, I wasn't going fast enough, it looked like, or it seemed, for me to actually have the truck that was coming towards me as I was driving, veering across onto oncoming traffic. And so my husband watched all of this happen and unfold. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not in a wheelchair. I happened to actually go between these two markers. One was this huge sign and another was this huge tree. And so I didn't hit those. I went just a little bit further and down. And by that stage, the car had really started to slow down, not completely. And I smashed into some other trees, which of course, car was completely written off. But Cameron has pulled up, of course, not knowing what on earth had, and he was screaming at me. There are a couple of key messages I'd really like to share with you in the next 4 hours, either 1 or 2 hours today and 1 or 2 hours next week. And one of them is, dying is incredibly peaceful, and you don't know you've gone, right? You actually have no idea. And it is remarkable. It's truly exquisite. For me, it was incredibly noisy. My life did flash before my eyes, but I saw interactions that I had from others' perspective as well as my own. It was almost like I had an all-knowing about the situation. Can you imagine? Like, I'm here and I'm talking to you, Linda, or you, Nadine, or you, Catherine, and I, in that realm, I could know what you were experiencing from your side, what you were thinking and what you were seeing and how you were feeling. But that happened for almost every moment of my entire life. That's how fast and noisy this experience was. Anyway, I came to. At the time, even the specialists in the emergency, because I got myself to hospital with Cameron's help, and of course he's called the authorities, they thought I'd fallen asleep at the wheel. It was 7 o'clock on a Sunday evening. I'd been to my mother and father's place for beautiful lasagna. My mum makes the best lasagna, and it was delicious. And Cameron and I had actually gone there separately, which is why we were in two cars heading home to our own home, and he was driving behind me because we'd left my parents' place. So anyway, couldn't possibly have fallen asleep at the wheel. Never done that before. Wasn't tired. Wasn't my, circadian rhythms acting up as far as I could possibly tell. So they'd put me on a halter, and they'd actually found out pretty quickly, and they'd done the blood test immediately in emergency, and they could see I had no troponin in my blood system, which is the protein that our heart releases if we've had a heart attack. So it didn't look like I'd had a heart attack. And for all intents and purposes, I was a pretty healthy, relatively young woman. What they ended up finding out was that I have this extraordinary rare condition, and it literally stops. There's a nerve from the brain that has the communication that actually really controls the autonomic nervous system, and it wasn't sending the right communication messages to the S node. So the heart wasn't pumping as it should, and it was just going on a little holiday. I knew something spiritual was going on, though. I knew I was almost, when your computer's acting up and you power off and then you power back on again, like I'd powered off completely and come to again. I'm very lucky. I'm very, very, very lucky, no doubt about it. But I lay in the hospital bed after my 6th occasion, and that was over a space of about 15 months. And I remembered it had happened to me twice before, but it had been assumed it was a faint. And I was exhausted. Once when I was in Abu Dhabi and I was launching lithotherapy, which is the treatment that I was training all of these therapists in this Ayurvedic spa for the Le Meridian hotel group. I just put it down to jet lag. I was exhausted. But it had happened before when I was about 18, and I'd been pretty stressed, I think, working. I was having some fun working on a group project, but I was at college in business school. And so maybe 19. Anyway, it just was assumed that I'd had a faint, because that's what happens if you're dehydrated. Except in the 6 things that had happened, let's call them episodes, I wasn't dehydrated and I wasn't overly tired. In fact, after the very first instance, I bought myself an Enagic water machine from my friend Annie, and she had become a distributor, and she was really into telling me how amazing Kangen water was. And I had a friend who, have a friend who is a really incredible nurse, and I asked her to tell me. She went off and did a whole heap of research about electrolyzed reduced water, ERAWR, whatever. Anyway, the next thing you know, I'm buying this, to me, felt like an extraordinarily expensive machine. And I didn't really feel like building the business as a distributor, but, I'm very open. So, I bought an Enagic machine. So I had convinced myself, and belief is very important, particularly for the placebo effect, that in the subsequent 5 episodes, I couldn't possibly have been dehydrated. It's impossible, right? And what are the other reasons why you faint? Because you've spent a lot of time on your feet and you've been outdoors. Yes, but no, that wasn't the case. In fact, on one of the occasions, I was in a coaching session here on Zoom with a lady whose father is actually a GP. And she was on the west coast of the northwest part of the USA. Anyway, I've literally gone dead in front of her. as I've done that, I've actually hit my desk on the way down, and I've opened up and I've got blood. And interestingly enough, as I hit the floor with the full body weight, I've actually smashed my cheekbone. I look pretty good now, don't I? There was a little while where I didn't. Why am I telling you all of this? Because I've had more occasion than most to really think about what's on my bucket list. But I don't like calling it a bucket list, because one of the things I've noticed is all the people that I coach, if you think about creating a bucket list when you've been given a diagnosis and you can't travel because you're having treatment, you left your bucket list to the point at which it was too late. I actually really want to focus on a live list. The things that are going to help you to feel like you've lived and you're loving living. And if you listen to all of the personal development gurus, including all of the positive psychology experts who are professors and researchers and so forth, the fascinating thing is that if you do that which is meaningful to you on a consistent, daily, regular basis, you will feel like life was worth living. And success is always hollow unless you feel fulfilled in the achievement of your goal. Who here, I'm just going to go to a different view. Who here knows who Tom Bellio is from Impact Theory? Hands up so that I can actually see. Wow, really? Okay, so with his wife and two other people, he created a company, and it's called Quest Nutrition, and he became a billionaire. And interestingly enough, he was a student in Anthony Robbins' programs, and he applied everything, and he was really intense and very ambitious, and he had a whole heap of his own motivations to become a billionaire. And I watched an interview with him recently, and he actually went to seek out Tony Robbins only a couple of years ago, because here he was with Quest and he'd sold out and he was a billionaire and he was really unfulfilled. And he was actually married to the woman of his dreams, Lisa. Lisa actually does a little bit of keynote speaking and coaching through Brendan Burchard's group. Do you know his Growth Day app? Yeah? Yep. Alrighty, so it's important to live your live list. So I have used the word bucket list because I think that's what people can associate with, but it's actually not a bucket list. It's really about your live list. So here we are. Welcome. I know you might be thinking, come on, can we get into it? I am the creator of Lithos Therapy. A lot of people do know it's called hot stone massage these days. I could share an hour or two of the story about how I actually built that business. Why? It was a journey of training nearly 5,000 therapists over nearly a decade. I got started, basically around the year 2000, and I was invited to amazing places. In the Himalayas in India to train Ayurvedic doctors, as I just mentioned before, to the Middle East, to Abu Dhabi. I was asked to speak at conferences, International Spa Association conferences, and I've been very actively involved as one of the thought leaders in the wellness industry now for 25 years. Does age me, doesn't it? I was intense as a human being, as a young woman, like seriously intense, dynamic, driven, hardworking. Anyway, so by my mid-20s, I was ready to accelerate, and I had been on turbocharged between 20 and 25, I can tell you. And I had already worked 100-hour weeks consistently for months and months and months in order to climb the corporate ladder. Anyway, so the interesting thing is that, you know, yeah, I've achieved quite a lot. But when I think about what's on my list, I have survived a life-threatening condition and my movement has been restored. That's in the top left. Is it the top left for you? I have actually had my perfect wedding to my ideal man when I could have given up on the hopes, the dreams, and the desires, thinking it would never be for me. I was 50. It was my 50th birthday. And we got married at the party that was for my 50th. So that's me and Cam. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about my dream home and the fact that I live here mortgage free and we are very peaceful and secure. I always wanted to go to Venice on my honeymoon, and I did. That's me with Cameron on one of those beautiful boats being delivered to our hotel on the Grand Canal. I really do pride myself on being invited to the Global Wellness Summit. It's a very prestigious gathering of 400 of the people who really lead the spa and wellness industry globally. And I definitely had on my vision board or goals list, or, you know, the things to do was to firewalk at Tony Robbins. I'm going to tell you, this is how scary it is. That photo was taken in the year 2000 during the Sydney Olympics, right? So it's a long time ago I did that. I always wanted to meet and work with Jack Canfield, and I have. And I always wanted to be invited to speak on a stage that was international. Now I'm Australian, so this was actually in the US. So the rest of it is I am a best-selling author. I became a best-selling author back when there were real books that were printed, sold in real bookstores, and you actually had to sell thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands to be considered a best-selling author. There were no categories in Amazon that allowed you to sell 10 books to your friends or your mother and her friends, and then you call yourself an international best-selling author. That's Mike Dooley. Mike Dooley from the Notes to the Universe. I'd always wanted to meet him after I saw him in The Secret. Marcy Shimoff, and that's another interesting story. I saw Madame Butterfly at the Royal Albert Hall. I wanted to say a prayer in all of the grand houses of worship in the world. And I'm talking about whether it's Islamic or it's Buddhist or it's Hindu or it's Catholicism. And this is a photo of me and Cam actually in the Vatican. We did the Sistine Chapel and so forth. And on my list is actually some things that make it easy. So I'm going to tell you something that I learned from Tony Robbins, and it was about rules and goals and how you feel or get yourself into the feeling like you're in momentum, like there's inertia towards the achievement of those goals. And it's about if then. So are you ready for this? Because this is one of the greatest secrets. You could have on your vision board or on your bucket list or on your goals setting piece of paper, I want to be healthy, right? But Tony Robbins actually says you never get to healthy. And so you will always feel like a failure, because it'll be based upon the rules that you have around what does being classified as healthy mean. And so as you develop your own bucket lists or your own vision boards or your own goal lists, I want you to think about what's on there and what your rules are. And I'm going to give you an example. I am healthy. I classify or qualify and quantify myself as healthy if I drink more than 8 glasses of water a day on average for more than half the week. Some days I get to the end of the day and think, shivers, I haven't had 8 glasses of water today. I've had only 4 or 6. I started to actually put this practice in place where I'd like flush my body first thing in the morning. And so I'd have a big glass of water, because this is 500 mils. I don't know what that is in American terms. Does anyone know in ounces? Anyway, it's a big glass of water. It's usually 2 of these is the equivalent of what most health experts will tell you is a glass of water. So this is 2 glasses of water. Anyway, I would start with this. And I'd create these little rules for myself where I had to consume at least 1 liter of water or 4 glasses of water by lunchtime, right? And then I'd go through phases where lunch would be at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or maybe even 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm like, oh, whoops, I need to actually refine that to I drank 4 glasses of water or the equivalent thereof before midday. Now, I'm not the kind of person who sleeps in late. So it's really quite easy for me to have drunk at least 2 or 3 or 4 glasses of water by 9 a.m. because I've been up running since, woo, on fire, 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. Okay, so Tony Robbins says that if you want to get yourself into inertia to achieve more in your life, you actually have to set it up so that you win. And it's not you cheating, because some of you will have these limiting beliefs that you made it too easy for yourself and therefore you're not worthy and deserving. So one of the things might be on your bucket list. It might be, I'm going to read 100 books in the next 5 years. Some people are super crazy and go, I'm going to read 1 book a week. So I'm going to have 100 books read within 2 years, right? I decided to make an entry on my list was I'm going to read 1 book from beginning to end, from cover to cover, because I was in the habit of buying books and not reading them. Oh, I'd read the first chapter. Oh, yes, I'd read the first chapter. But I wouldn't read the whole book. And so I want you to think about, there's something in your life right now. Can you write it down where you want to manifest something and you have to create a new rule that's going to make you feel like you've already achieved it or you are achieving it. So I am healthy. What does being healthy mean to you? Does it mean that you drink 8 glasses of water a day? What does being healthy mean to you? Does that mean that you have a regular massage because, you're wanting that lymphatic drainage and you're wanting your body to cleanse itself a little bit better? What does you being healthy mean? Does it mean that you've done at least 30 minutes of cardiovascular exercise where your heart rate is elevated for a minimum of 30 minutes 4 times a week? How do you define being healthy? And how could you define it in a way that makes it much easier for you to achieve? I know a lot of people who train at the gym, but they usually spend a little bit too much time either on strength training, because that's what comes naturally to them, or they overdevelop their chest and underdevelop their legs. I shouldn't generalize here, but that's usually men, right? Or women focus on aerobic exercise without knowing that aerobic causes toxins. Antioxidant is antioxygen, and aerobic exercise is all about oxygen. And so the reason why people need antioxidants is because they actually are in processes biologically and physiologically that are oxygen demanding. That's what aerobic exercise does to you versus anaerobic exercise. All right, so I could spend at least 2 hours going over how do you define health. You can do it for yourself. You can do some Googling, but it's really important that you define the rules for yourself, right? So let's jump back, shall we? And have a little look at what I shared here. So on the previous slide, I was trying to help you understand that I have actually manifested living in the home of my dreams, which for me meant I owned it and I was mortgage free. But for you, it could be a stepping stone. I also had on my bucket list being married. So marriage was actually important to me, but not just any type of marriage. A fulfilling, richly rewarding marriage where there was mutual respect, admiration, and I could go on and on and on. Oh, and we are, because we're about to help you really define what's on your live list. So I'm going to actually tell you something really interesting about these two. And I'm going to show you something. I had, by the time I really got serious, had already created lithos therapy, as I've explained to you. I'd already impacted millions of people's lives in a positive way. I lay in that hospital bed, my moment of reckoning, just the night before I was having a cardiac pacemaker implanted. And they had explained to me that there were the likelihood of complications in surgery, post-surgery, and also with rejection. The body can reject the metal up to 2 to 3 years after you've actually had a cardiac pacemaker implanted. And so I came to this moment where I asked myself, is it okay if I die tomorrow? Have I done enough? And you know what the interesting thing is that I had already created positive prime by this stage. I had already become a best-selling author by this stage. And at that moment, I was actually really well supported. I was already in the relationship of my lifetime. Well, that's certainly how I was thinking and feeling, because I was super loved, cherished, cared for by Cameron. But I wrote out this. I trained 500 therapists in lithos therapy. And you know what's amazing about that? Is that I know for a fact, because I was a qualified therapist. Most people don't understand that I actually went back to study and I qualified as an osteopath and an exercise physiologist, and I specialized in cardiac rehabilitation. So it was an irony that I was actually facing pacemaker surgery, right? Incredible. But as a therapist, and of all the therapists that I trained and of the businesses, the salons, I knew that the average massage therapist who was using lithos therapy, these handcrafted marble rocks that were both heated and chilled, they were required by their employers, or if they were self-employed, to basically do on average 4 treatments per day, right? And after many years, I had actually trained more than 5,000 therapists. I'd also trained lots of lecturers at places like the Australasian College of Natural Therapies and spa directors and spa trainers. And so I knew that on any one day, 20,000 people were actually being treated by these beautiful handcrafted marble sculptures that had been my business, right? So I knew that on average, 100,000 people were feeling better an hour and a half after they got started in a massage treatment than they were before. Why? Because I'd been the client and I'd also been the therapist. So only a couple of years ago, as I'm lying there, I actually thought to myself, you know what? My life has actually been worth living. I have physically impacted in a vicarious way, or in an indirect way, 50 million moments and counting. Because you know what had happened? I had trained so many therapists who then trained so many other therapists, and it spread like wildfire. One of the other things, sorry, that I did was I actually wrote out all the countries that I had been to, because I really was flooding myself with how incredibly blessed I had been. And for me, traveling is really juicy and fabulous and glorious and wonderful and sensational. And I love meeting lots of new people, and I love being in incredible places that are inspiring and thought-provoking and so forth. And so on my list was, you know, I really wanted to have been to the 7 continents and seen most of the countries and experienced and had interactions that were really delicious with, you know, glorious, huge number of people. Now, what I can tell you about how all of that happened is that if you have a vision board and you look at your vision board, you are literally going to prevent what is on your vision board from coming to fruition based upon your mood. And this was what really led to Positive Prime and my creation of Positive Prime. So I'm actually just going to share with you something really amazing. Can you do something? can you either get out your iPhone and open up your camera, and can you please turn it around so that you're actually looking at yourself? See, I'm looking at me now. I'm obviously also looking at me because I'm on Zoom and this is a video. But if you don't have a mirror, I actually do have a mirror. Would you believe it? I do have a mirror because I do lots of presenting and I want to tidy up my lipstick. I have a mirror at my desk, but I want you to look into the mirror or into, the phone, and I want you to smile at yourself. And I want you to smile at yourself. And I want you to actually smile as if you're trying to tell yourself you truly love yourself. Now you can stop the video if you want, if you're feeling a bit weird by having some other people in this group see you do this. But anyway, I want you to literally smile at yourself, right? Maybe look into your eyes and send yourself sweet nothings. Like, just smile as broadly as you can, as genuinely, as sweetly. Be really sincere, smile at yourself. As if you were smiling at a child who loves you, or if you were smiling at one of your best friends. Okay. All right. So I want to tell you something interesting. The retina in your eyes is seeing your smile and sending messages to your mirror neurons in your brain, and your mirror neurons are sending messages to your endocrine system, and hormonally you are starting to produce a chemical cocktail inside your body that is more dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, and they are neurotransmitters, and they actually help your brain to effectively be at a higher vibration. Now, not very many people smile or have been smiling at themselves or have been seeing other people smiling at them before they look at their vision board. So if you look at your vision board and you're in a bad mood or a foul mood, you're angry, you're disappointed, you're frustrated, I don't know, anyone want to give me some other words that you might be? In any one day, we may have read something in the news that has made us sad, or we may have just had a conversation, or we may have this story in our head about an interaction we've had with a dear friend or a family member, but there's irkiness. I don't know how else to describe it. There's just irkiness. And the fascinating thing is, dejected, that's a great, you're feeling dejected. Whenever you're trying to manifest something or achieve a goal, your mood as you approach it, and Wayne Dyer used to talk about intention and so forth, but let's just make it simple. Your mood will determine whether you're at a high enough vibration, whether you're at the frequency to allow yourself to attract the people, the circumstances, and the situations that are necessary for you to have the resources that help you to achieve whatever it is that you want. Worried, that's a great one. Self-criticism, that's a great one. Alrighty, so inside a positive prime session, there are enough images of people smiling at you, because the science says this: you do not have to look at yourself in the mirror to see yourself smiling in order for you to have that cascade occur. I can show you a photograph of somebody else smiling, and your mirror neurons will see that and send messages to your body, and you will actually be elevated and uplifted, right? So if you're going to be looking at the things that you want or the experiences that you want, you actually want to be in this incredible juiciness, let's call it, in a positively primed state. Now, when we measure your brain waves, it actually means your brain waves are in a state of flow. So at the end of 2022, this is just like a little pop-up, I was invited to present the research that we had done at the Society for Neuroscience annual convention in San Diego. 20,000 delegates. 20,000 delegates. It's the most prestigious of all gatherings in the field of neuroscience. The Society for Neuroscience has an annual conference that showcases the greatest breakthroughs in scientific research in the neuroscience field. Brain science, neuro means brain. I'm sure you all know that. Anyway, we had engaged and committed to the University of Technology Sydney's School of Engineering, where there is a brain-computer interface lab. It's actually the same as the brain-computer interface lab the colleagues work together that Elon Musk is working on, which is like brain chips that are the size of a hair that do all sorts of interesting, there's going to be so many breakthroughs in this field. But anyway, Dr. Avinash Singh and his team were researching positive prime sessions on real humans, and they would stress out these real humans and then positively prime them and see what would happen. And then they would also have really calm humans and actually positively prime them and see what happens. Because we needed to know whether, if you're in a busy place and there's lots of noise, is the effect similar? Anyway, we did eye tracking, we did skin conductance, we did heart rate variability, we did EEGs. So we actually, and guess what? When you are being positively primed by our formula, which includes lots of smiles, a certain ratio of smiles, your brain actually is healthier in terms of its brain waves. It's a state that's scientifically defined as flow. So what I can tell you is that anything that I have manifested that's been truly extraordinary has been manifested from a state of flow. And it's possible to manifest not being in that state, but that state is so fleeting, and it's usually very hard for people to get themselves into that state and to stay in that state. So I'm going to show you something really interesting. A couple of years ago, a long time ago, I created the first, let's call it a PowerPoint slide, that has evolved to become a positive prime session. You're going to find this really fascinating. My life did not look like I wanted it to. I was not in a meaningful relationship. I'd had a fair bit of irkiness around all of that. I was not living in a home that I loved living in. And I sure as hell, or heck, sorry, I'm talking to Americans. I was so far away from owning my own home. I hadn't really achieved what I wanted to in business. Anyway, I created this PowerPoint presentation because of one thing that Tony Robbins says, and that is you get what you focus on. And he also says, if you're actually focusing on something that is making you feel worse or not exactly amazing, you've actually got to interrupt. You physically have to have an intervention to interrupt the negative thinking or the limiting thinking, right? And so I created this because I knew that if I was looking at this, I couldn't possibly have my mind running away like a monkey mind, thinking all sorts of other terrible things about myself or about the world or about politics or about my friends or whatever, right? Now, Tony Robbins also really talks about repetition. And so I decided I needed to have words repeat. And he also talks about something that is really, really fascinating. And that is about your beliefs and your expectations. So this is let's call it an original positive prime. I desperately wanted to manifest an amazing lover, soulmate, husband, person to live the rest of my life with. I desperately wanted to manifest a whole heap of other things. It's down here, and I'm just going to show you at about slides 1500. I had images of the kind of relationship. Where are we? 500. We've got a lot further to go. At about 1500. We're still at only 1,000. Okay, so let's go back here. So I'd already started to develop the formula for the way that this manifestation would work. And that was that you needed to really be grateful. I'd already written my book about gratitude. I'd already I'd already studied all of the positive psychology research around gratitude, but I created my own gratitude board. I actually realized that it was more important for me to have a gratitude board than a vision board if I wanted to manifest. And so that's actually one of the keys. And then from this state where, and I'm going to literally show you, I had to believe it all continues to get better and better. And if I say that out loud to myself, because of self-fulfilling prophecies and the way the brain works, the brain will go in search of answers to prove to you that you are right. We have an insatiable appetite to be right. A lot of us have friends who are control freaks who actually think that they are more right than everybody else on the planet. I know you know some of these people. Maybe you are one. I could actually be one to know one. I'm sure you've heard that phrase as well. Like it takes one to know one. But every single person on planet Earth actually needs to be right about what it is that they believe. So we go in search of evidence and we stack up that evidence and we substantiate to ourselves that we are right about what we feel and think, right? So if I see this, it all continues to get better and better. My brain automatically, naturally, organically goes in search of evidence to prove that this is right to me, because my brain is a system that is seeking, deleting, adding. It's doing everything to support this. This becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So if I don't believe it all continues to get better and better, the fascinating thing is so long as I see it like this, it all continues to get better and better, my brain will go in search of the answers, the solutions, and everything else, right? Now, if I see this and then I drop straight back into this vibration of gratitude, I'm on the right track for what Tony Robbins would call anchoring in a belief. Now, if I see what a relief, I'm going to attract to me the circumstances, situations, and people, the moments that are going to give me this sense, what a relief, what a relief, what a relief, right? Now, I'll tell you what's amazing is that I started, and I'm just going to go down here to look for images that were related to love. So you can see here. I looked for images that really, they personified what exquisite love would feel like to me. Now, I don't know if you can see this up here, but this is the second big version that I did. This was in 2011. 2011. What year are we in? Okay, more than a decade has passed, and I am now married to the love of my life, right? And so the crazy, incredible, frustrating, interesting thing about your bucket list or your live list or your vision board is that everything will happen to you in divine timing. And that is going to really annoy you, I'm sure, a million times between now and then. Now, I've been in this relationship with Cameron for nearly 10 years, and it has been exquisite and also been rocky, and we've had our challenges and so forth. But I literally started to think about where would I go if I was in this amazing relationship. And I will tell you, the most incredible thing is I was looking back at this in preparation for this gathering today, and Cameron has actually booked for us for our 2nd anniversary the opportunity for us to go to Tahiti, right? And I literally used to look at this and think about what does this image make me feel? Now, here is one of the clues that you might want to write down. When you see an image of something you want or desire or indeed need, send this essence of blessing out. Remove what could be jealousy. Like, it's not fair that these people, that'll never happen to me. So what would happen is I would look at this and I would literally go, oh, wow, I am absolutely thrilled for the people who experience this kind of love. I'm happy for them, right? Now, as I send that energy out, it starts to actually, with the law of reciprocity, come back. If you see somebody with something that you want and you are judgmental, jealous, you can give me some other words if you like, but if you're in a state where you think it's not fair, or why them and why not me, you have literally cancelled and deleted the order that you have in with the universal, the divine. You've literally negated the prayer if you've been speaking to God or your angels, right? You must catch yourself and focus on how happy you are for others that they have what it is that you want or desire. Massive key. Massive key. All right, so right now, I want you to know that I had no idea how I was actually going to end up with the man that I truly loved, or indeed living in the house that I love. I think I've got my friend Annie here. I was talking to her the other day and I said, Annie, you know, I tell people, where are you, Annie? Actually, do you know what? I'm going to make you a co-host so that you can unmute yourself if you like. You don't have to turn your camera on, or you can unmute yourself. I'm going to show everybody something. There is this house that is at the end of the road that I used to walk to. I actually used to walk 10 kilometers first thing in the morning up and down. Can you see this? This is actually the address of the real house, 75 Lone Hand Lane, Yamundi. Yamundi is a little town in Queensland. And this house, the architect is Ken Robinson, right? My parents had built a house with an architect that looked at this house. See this mountain up here? This is called Mount Koroy. I'm going to show you something really, I think, quite interesting. Bear with me. Let's go back here, because I showed you this slide, didn't I? Now, see, this is the same mountain. This is me at my parents' place looking over this valley, and over to the right is that house. Is that house at 75 Lone Hand Lane, right? Now, Annie, I used to see that house every single day. I used to see that house every single day when I was at my parents' place working from, I actually had an office and a warehouse on my parents' property. That's an interesting side note about positive prime and or indeed lithos therapy. And this house over to the right is my current house. The same architect, Ken Robinson. They look pretty similar, don't they? Hey. Is it not true that I used to say, one day I'm going to live in a house like that? You tell the story, hey?
Hi everyone. Thanks for asking me to join, Kim. Yeah, I was just going to digress a little bit. We've been through a long journey together, and I've watched, I think I remember you making those blue slides way back then. We've known each other since before then. Kim talking about vibration and vision boards. Vibration is the main thing, you know, for us to really, it's just when you attach like that, you know, you just to keep attaching, and then you've probably seen it show up in your own life, things that have, you know, just turned up out of the blue. If you are going to manifest, and I'm sure you've probably seen things come in your life out of the blue that you absolutely love, might be a car, for instance, that you can hop in and feel and smell, and you just want it. So yeah, so sorry, Kim, for taking so long, but I just think, you know, a vibration is really the key. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. You know, the reason why I asked Annie is because I confide in very few people, and I would say to Annie, I mean, and she knew there was no way on planet Earth at that moment, at that time, did I have a business that was successful enough for me to live in my dream home, that it was impossible. So one of the keys that I think you just heard in Annie's story as well is that you've got to remain open to the possibilities, right? You've got to remain open to the possibilities. You don't know how it's going to happen, but if it's meant to be, it will be, right? If it's meant to be, it will be. And so part of what I really wanted to share with you is it doesn't matter what other people think of what you want. It only matters to you what you want, right? It's not for other people to tell you whether what you want is too grand or not, too materialistic or not, right? So I would say that whatever you're worried about others saying or thinking about your dreams, your desires, your goals, honestly, it's what your higher self is actually worried about. That's your limiting belief. I gave you a really interesting clue just then. I'm going to give you, maybe you've got another example. Let's just say you want to be an international speaker on a stage, right? And you're worried that somebody else is going to judge you and say, you don't know enough. You're not an expert. Who's going to listen to you? It's highly likely that whatever you're worrying about other people thinking is actually your deepest limiting beliefs from your higher self. You've got to catch them. And preferably write them down, and then preferably on a piece of paper where there are two columns, A and B, write the exact opposite. Sometimes you have to convince yourself that what you want is possible. And the art is actually allowing yourself to surrender around what's impossible. There are all of these incredible dichotomies on this journey to having whatever it is that you want and what you desire. A lot of people don't actually even know where to start in creating a vision board. So someone I saw in the chat asked, is a gratitude board a vision board? No, a gratitude board is actually that which you have already experienced in life that you are super appreciative of. The circumstances, the situations, the moments, the experiences, the people, what's made you, the beautiful version of you that you've become, right? Being in gratitude is important whilst you're being in the possibilities of what it is that you want in the future. But you actually have to mix and merge them. You have to have them intertwined. They have to be interlaced. They cannot be separate to each other. I promise you, this is one of the secrets. On your gratitude board should be things from your vision board. On your vision board should be things from your gratitude board. But even more than that, and let's just go back here for 1 second. I really want to show you over here. One of the other keys that is as important as your mood, right, is that the problem with putting something that's too future orientated is that your brain needs to access these little crumbs that almost create these leaps to and from the future. There actually needs to be a bridge. And so you need to have your brain communicating with the quantum field about that which you've already achieved. And so a vision board really does need to have everything that you're grateful for integrated into it. But the key is that you've got to attract for you, right? I'm going to tell you something super interesting about some training that I did. My process for manifesting completely shifted gears into overdrive, supercharged, incredible, accelerated speed the minute I started to introduce photographs of myself. So most people only put the experiences that they want or the things that they want on their vision board. And most people on their gratitude put, their cats or their dogs or their birds, their gardens, their children. And I'll tell you the craziest key, it has to be you. You have to be in your bucket list. You. This is your life. But do you know what? Your other than consciousness needs to actually attach you into the manifestation. So this is a photo of me graduating from business school. And the interesting thing about this is nobody believed I'd ever actually graduate, because I was not the best student. In fact, I was into all the extracurricular activities, and I was a bit naughty, or quite naughty. It was an amazing Ivy League school, but I ended up going back. I took a sabbatical, or I took some time off. I went back and I actually graduated. And that photo is really meaningful to me, because when I see it, it sparks in me. People actually laughed at me when I said I was going back to university, because they were like, as if you're going to actually graduate. There's no way you're going to make it. You're just not disciplined enough to show up to class and actually do the study that's necessary. And yet I did, and I became an exceptional student. I was top of my class in every single class, right? And I think it's because there's this aspect of my personality where I dug my heels in to prove everybody wrong, because I was just so incredibly offended that they didn't believe in me. But actually the question to me was really, do I believe in me? And no, I did not. So I overachieved so that I could prove to myself that I could actually achieve. So anyway, what is beautiful about this process is you just allowing yourself the deliciousness of imagining what it is that you truly want. The reason why I wanted to make this 4 hours is because I actually want to go through a process with you, if you're up for it, that will help you with what happens when you start to tell yourself something is out of your league, or it's out of your control, or it's never going to happen. And kind of what we do in those instances. Do you want to go there? You do. Okay. I'm going to give you an example. We're going to screen share again, shall we? I'm going to give you an example. Let me just show you by going here. If or something even better. Now, I'm going to explain this as a concept, if or something even better. Let's just say that on your vision board, you want to fly first class, right? Some people have that as a dream. I've never really understood it. And yet this is me here in Emirates, in there. Whoa, sorry. That's me and my silly little mouse. That's me in an Emirates airplane, and there was this outrageous discount that was part of this package. I couldn't believe it, but it was true. And business class airfares from Australia to Europe, which by the way is a very long way and usually very expensive, became possible. So that's me. I want you to know that it could be this or something even better. And what's fascinating is that I actually love saving money. And so the universe delivered to me an opportunity for me to actually travel in style in business class or first class. And here, there was no first class on this particular airplane. There was only business class. This or something even better. So the universe gave me something that I could find absolutely delightful, and I also saved money, right? Now, the other thing is that you want to be in a state of allowing it to unfold the way that it should or would or could. So up here to the left, that's actually Cameron. And I have taken that photo, and he is flying his own aeroplane. I have a very serious issue, by the way, with heights now with my autonomic nervous system disorder. So me being in this tiny airplane with Cameron, like literally I nearly had a heart attack out of pure fear. I was terrorized. And yet I had no issue with feeling safe with him. It's just that I didn't feel safe in that airplane. But let's use this as an example. You might want to own an airplane, but you've got to go through the steps that get you there. So over here to the right is actually paragliding. Cameron, before he owned his own airplane or would fly his own airplane, which of course was on his own vision board, was a hang glider, but not powered. And he would never, ever, for safety reasons, get into a paraglider. He thinks that they're actually really, really dangerous. The potential for plummeting to your death is way, 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 way higher in a paraglider, and the stats prove it out, than a hang glider. And so when you think about what it is that you want, allow the universe to give you the crumbs. So what I'm trying to say is Cameron needed to learn to hang glide before he actually felt comfortable enough flying his own aeroplane. And he knew when he was flying his own aeroplane that he could glide to wherever for safety. And interestingly enough, that knowledge that he had and the way he convinced me is what made me feel safe enough to go up inside his aeroplane. So you might want on your bucket list to fly, I don't know, across the world in business class or first class. And what you might get are these other opportunities for you to fly in someone else's baby airplane. The universe has this incredible way of giving you the experiences that are in the best interest of your higher self on your way to getting what it is that you truly want. Now, Annie, interestingly enough, does actually have a story of flying first class Emirates, and that's a whole nother story, so we'll have to invite her back for another day. So that's one of the interesting things about this, or something even better. And then I'm going to go into this, what happens with your limitations, and then we'll close it out here. And we're actually going to go into some exercises in the next workshop for those of you who really want to create your own bucket list, but more importantly, have this confidence that you're actually going to be able to live it and breathe it and enjoy it and love it. So I just want you to write down some of the things that you've been telling yourself about why you can't or haven't had what it is that you want on your bucket list. And these are some thought starters. I'll tell you the most interesting thing about my home is that I used to have I probably won't ever get to live in the house of my dreams unless I make the money and buy it. And in fact, Cameron had the money and he purchased it. And if I tell you that story, you might jump to a conclusion that I'm a high maintenance woman who married into some wealth and then got my own home that I live in. Yes, and there's always a price to pay. So I am the breadwinner of our union. And so even though I live in a house that is undoubtedly mine, and we live mortgage free because we paid 100% of it when we purchased it, and it was Cameron's money, the fascinating thing is that we've evened out over time, over the last couple of years, all of the money issues. That means that it wasn't like I met a man who bought me a house. So a lot of people have stories that stop themselves from getting what it is that they want because they hold it out there in judgment of what's right or wrong or good or bad. A lot of people might have something on their bucket list. It could be, for example, I want to go to Antarctica, or I want to go to see the Northern Lights, right? But they're stuck in a job. And so they're telling themselves that they don't have enough vacation, so they don't have the time. Wherever you've got one of these beliefs, I want you to capture it, and I want you to become aware of it and conscious of it. And then I want to actually have you write it down on a piece of paper. And I want you to write the opposite. So if you tell yourself, I don't have time, I actually want you to write down a self-fulfilling prophecy that says, I have more than enough time for everything that is important to me. Have you ever noticed that we make time when it's important? Have you ever noticed that if you really, 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 really want to show up for somebody, you create the time to do so? Yeah. So the other key to manifesting what it is that you truly desire is your own process of prioritizing. Only you can decide what is a must for you. Only you can decide that which is important. Now, I think in the next week, if you have a really good think about the places that you want to go to in this lifetime, right? And I want you to write them down. If you were forced to, prioritize them, which is the one that is at the top of the list?
Are you talking about as far as you're putting the list together, or are you talking about the issues that you may or may not have?
I'm talking about the interesting thing is if you say I don't have the time and you've written down I have all the time that I need for that which is important, that underlying belief is what's going to unlock the energy around, for example, where it is that you want to go. So the key was about importance. You will not go anywhere that isn't important to you. And you will create or make the time. It will literally just arise as if out of some kind of miracle or magic. If you have a very strong belief that you always have enough time for that which is important, if you tell the universe that going to see the Northern Lights or going to Antarctica is really important, all of a sudden your schedule will open up and you will have the time to go to Antarctica, right? There's actually another example of a limiting belief. Let me just share it with you here. I'm going to exit out of here and jump to another slide as an example. And then I'm going to give you one final secret that's really helped unlock things for me. I want to go on a safari in Africa, in East Africa. That's one of the things on my list. In fact, you may have already picked up, read between the lines, seeing the Northern Lights, Antarctica, and a safari in Africa are really high on my list. I actually know quite a lot about Abercrombie & Camp. They're essentially a world-class organizer of group tours, and they're really quite unique, and they're very expensive and they're luxurious, but they really focus on conservation, and that's important to me. So I want to go to East Africa, and I might look here at something like the Great Migration Safari, 14 days, $30,000 per person. And my set point right now is that is way too expensive for me, right? That is seriously way too expensive for me. That's $60,000. And what I know about these is that's not me getting to Africa. I've actually just been to South Africa for a conference, a Web3 blockchain conference. And I know how far away Africa is for an Australian. And I also know how expensive it is to get to Africa for an Australian. But so this is one of those moments where you immediately tell the universe it's not for you, and you can't possibly manifest if you don't make it possible. So there are a couple of little keys if this wants to be a reality for me. Shall I share with you what it is, what happens inside my brain and my heart when I see something that seems impossible? I start to think about the other things that I've experienced over the last 10 years that have also been impossible. It was impossible for me to believe 10 years ago I would meet a man who would make me really happy and make me feel safe and protected, and who would celebrate my ambitious nature and not try to clip my wings, right? Who would want to create the life that I want to live and would allow me to be me, but not put up with any of my BS. I told this to Patty, and I'm going to share something about the conversation I had with Patty the other day. I needed someone strong enough to stand up to me, because I can actually, anyway, Cameron doesn't deal with any of my blah. He just doesn't entertain it. And that's actually good for me. And it was impossible for me to believe 10 years ago. Now, I did get clear about what was really, 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 really important to me in a relationship. This is one example, and then you can follow it through. I really wanted someone to be loyal. We get who we are. So I made a decision that I had to be really, 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 really loyal. I then told the universe through my actions and my behavior, that's the only way to actually communicate with the universe, by the way. It's the only way you communicate with the universe. It's not what you say to the universe. Yes, emotion is important, but emotion in motion, it's how you behave and what you do. So being loyal and demonstrating my loyalty to my friends or my colleagues or my family, every single time I was expressing loyalty, I knew I was closer to attracting somebody who was going to be loyal to me. You need to write a really long list of all the other things that are important to you in your important relationships, and then know this as an absolute fact. You can and will never have it in a sustainable, healthy way that's actually in the best interest of your higher self. I actually said in a sustainable and healthy way that's in the best interest of your higher self, unless you are it first. Right? You cannot have someone playful come into your life and make you laugh unless you are capable of being really playful and doing a lot of laughing. You cannot have someone come into your life and really cherish you and nurture you unless you are really, really exceptional at cherishing and nurturing others. Right? You must be it. And you must be it in action. So anyway, back to Abercrombie and Kent in Africa. Who wants to come on safari with me? Right? Yeah, Patty does. Okay. Right? Who else is there? Donna, you want to as well? Okay. Well, you know what? I could actually ring Abercrombie and Kent and say, hey, could you give us a discount if we have a group? See, what actually happens is that when you really tell the universe, and indeed you're doing so with your heart, you're firing off this intention, and it's just loving and pure and amazing, all sorts of ideas and solutions will actually come to you. Like you'll blurt out in a webinar, who wants to come with me? And maybe we go as a group. The other thing that will happen is that the universe will come knocking with opportunities for you to make more money. You must have serious stretch goals financially that are way beyond your capacity and capability to achieve them. But there are a couple of other steps. You must declare not only to your higher self, but to your inner soul that you will do what is necessary so long as there is ease, grace, and joy, right? So the universe will come knocking with opportunities, and you have to say yes. You have to say yes. And you have to apply yourself, and you have to do lots that makes you joyful, where there's ease and grace and speed. Now, if you're in business for yourself, there are a couple of things that you could write down. You have to make that call. Mel Robbins, I absolutely love and adore, and I watch everything that she puts on Instagram, and her 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That Tony Robbins has something else, and I did that obviously 20 years ago. But it's like go and Tony does this actually, by the way, with ice bathing in the morning. So he gets into, contrast therapy and ice bathing, and he doesn't do it because he actually wants the lymphatic drainage effect, which by the way is one of the effects, right? He does it because when he says go to his brain, he goes. And so if I say I'm going to make $1 million a year, which by the way I have done, I'm going to make $1 million, but I'm not going to let myself down, and I'm not going to let others down. And so you need a coach that you declare some of this stuff with, who's going to hold you accountable, or a best friend, or a mentor, or a guide, or a colleague, or a business partner. None of any of this is possible without dialogue. It's one of the keys. I've been giving you some secrets. One of the keys is dialogue. Now, for me, sometimes it's Annie. Annie's my friend. She's like my older sister. And I will share with her what it is that I hope for, wishing, desiring, caring about. Or it could be Patty. Patty and I are now really good friends. And I'll tell her, what do I really, really want? Or it's Mayumi. I work day in and day out with Mayumi. And I said to Mayumi, in 2025 and 2026, by the end of 2026, I will have been and seen the Northern Lights. I will have been on safari, and I will have been Antarctica. Will you hold that with me? Cameron really wants to go to Antarctica, and he turns 60 in one of those years. I won't tell you which one. And I know, because I'm following this incredible Facebook group of a cruise liner, a brand that does this incredible new itinerary to Antarctica in a beautiful luxury ship. And the fascinating thing is that I will do what is necessary to make sure that I can afford that. I will make the call, right? I will coach or guide the person that needs to be coached or guided. I will be the team leader that I need to be. Whatever it is, right? You've got to declare to yourself that you're going to do the things that are outside of your ordinary everyday if you want something extraordinary that's beyond your ordinary everyday, right? But the way that you get there is through your ordinary everyday. And so this is one of the really, really, really interesting things I'm going to show you now, right? We have this new ebook, and it's called Your 100 Inspirations for Your Bucket List. And I talk about why it's actually a live list. Now, if you don't have something as simple as treat yourself to breakfast in bed, can you see that? On your live list, you are not being in vibrational match that you can actually achieve that which is on your bucket list vision book. Like that, you have to do the tiny everyday things as well, right? So a lot of people will put on their vision board the big grand things, not realizing that actually, if in the next week or two, you could look for an opportunity where you can try a new sport, what you're actually doing is you're sending all the right messages to the universe that you're in action, that you're applying this, and that some of the things that you want to do. Now, there are literally 100 ideas here. This new ebook is an idea I got from my friend Nikki, who is really great at selling digital products online. And so I said to Mayumi, let's create a digital product that we can sell online, and let's make it 100 ideas as a thought starter for people for their bucket lists or their vision boards. And so we created it over the last couple of weeks, and we're selling it for $1, right? And we're about to see, I'd always wanted to go to Egypt. I did last year. Put my hand on the pyramids. I went under one. We went with an Egyptologist from National Geographic. It was absolutely extraordinary. Always wanted to get married. I did. Always wanted to fly business class. I did. I always wanted to live in my own dream home, mortgage free, and I did. I wanted to take my niece for her 18th birthday to Bali, and I did. Anyway, my point is that it's all possible. It is all possible. And you've got to unlock the very best of you to allow yourself to experience the best. And so much of what we do at Positive Prime and in all of the sessions that we have, it's about you being on the journey to you being your best version of you, and a little bit better than you were yesterday, and basically making a mistake and dusting yourself off and getting back up again. It's about the you who actually is thinking the kinds of self-fulfilling prophecies that's going to bring about. But you've got to do it consistently, right? You've got to do it consistently. So one of the biggest secrets, I think, over the last 10 years is that I have viewed a collection that have mixed and merged of positive primes that have been really personalized with lots of photographs of me. And what's interesting is that Mayumi actually said to me, you know, Kim, there's something in that, and I'm going to just really quickly show you down here. One of the one of the, I don't like to call it a trick, but I don't know other word. You could give me another word. One of the things that I remind myself on an almost constant basis is somewhere, someone is begging for what I have. Right? So if I start with that today, I feel rich, really rich. There are people on this planet who are earning $1 a day or $3 a day. There are people on this planet who aren't in a place where they're safe because there's war. There are people who are being given that diagnosis. Their biopsies didn't come back clear like mine did a couple of weeks ago. They're begging God for what I have. And if I can be really honest with myself and I can get myself into this space of divine and honest appreciation and gratefulness, and I know how lucky and blessed and fortunate I am, the universe will continue to give me opportunities and people and circumstances and situations and experiences that is in alignment with me being lucky and fortunate and blessed. But I promise you, unless you're actually there in the emotion, you can't be a match to it. And so if I'm having some difficulty reaching for I am so incredibly grateful and blessed and lucky, I actually look at a slide like that. I've actually got one that's printed, and I remind myself that right here and right now, I am billions of times luckier because of the parents I was born to, the country I was born into, the place that I choose to live in, the schooling that I had, the opportunities that come my way, the books that I've read, the person I've become. And that wholesome, intense feeling is absolutely necessary as the foundation for everything else. Right? It is. And who wants a little bit more? You're all still here. Surely you're tired. Do you want 2 more little things that made it worth showing up for today? Okay. So Nadine, put your hand up. I tell this story and then you can actually dive into it, shall we? Right. A couple of weeks ago, Nadine did a workshop that's really similar to this. I talk about her being one of the most qualified and experienced counselors and coaches and extraordinary colleagues of mine and so forth. And Nadine said something in her workshop which gave me a real aha. And that was, we actually get what we expect to get. And a lot of it has its foundations in our beliefs. And so sometimes we might need some NLP, or we might need some hypnosis, or we might need something else extra to help us shift a belief, or we might need an energy healing. But we've really got to shift our beliefs so that we can get what it is that we expect. So if we expect something to work out, it will, that or something even better. And Nadine actually said, you know how in my office right now, I'm sitting here, I've got this computer, but I've got a desk. And if I leave the room, I actually am going to come back into the room expecting that the desk is going to be here. Yeah. And I felt that in a way that gave me a real aha. And I thought, you know what? The things that I have not yet achieved, I don't expect them to be there at the end of the effort, or the light is not at the end of the tunnel. I was like, oh my goodness, I love it when I show up to other people's classes and programs and workshops and so forth, because I then asked myself a really important question. What would I need to have happen in order for me to expect that I will go to Antarctica on a luxury cruise ship, that or something even better, at the end of 2025? So Nadine, talk to us a little bit about expectation and quantum physics?
Well, really, it comes down to, you're talking about belief, right? And you're talking about knowing. And so when we believe something, we know it, like our heart knows it, and we expect it. And so many times we want something, somebody, you know, and again, you know, a lot of times people don't really know what they want. But and so getting really, really clear on what it is that you want and what's important to you, as you've been talking about, allows you to create those beliefs, that creates those inner knowings. And part of it is being able to visualize it in every single sense you have. So you want to be able to see it, feel it, taste it, smell it, hear it, and really get into it in order to have that inner knowing that that is something. But you really do need to be in alignment with it. And that's the piece of the quantum physics, is that expectation that this is going to happen. You're also absolutely right in that by taking action and by our behavior and our language and everything else, that is actually going to tell the universe, I'm serious about this and I'm committed. And it's like when you take that action, I don't know anything that's ever manifested for me without taking action on it. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but.
It most certainly did. Thank you, Nadine. I would love to spend the next 2 hours really, now that we've kind of set the foundations and the infrastructure, I would really like next week for me to share with you the other resources that I've used that have helped me to make $1 million a year, when, by the way, that seemed impossible 10 years ago. I had a desire, I had a want, I had a wish, I had a need, I had all of the pumped upness to do it, but it still didn't happen, and it still couldn't happen, it still wouldn't happen, and it still should have happened, but it didn't. And so there are some distinctions, as Tony Robbins calls them, some nuances. There are some added little extra secrets that I believe have been essential to my own journey and the way that I've been able to manifest. Like, for example, I've actually been through a couple of things in the last couple of years in business that really haven't worked out. And I've allowed myself not to jump from any frying pans into the fire, if you can imagine a gas burner. Like, I've allowed myself just to turn the fire off and sit and be still, and to allow the messages to come through, the lessons that I needed to learn, and know that it wasn't in my best interests. And to come to that real understanding that sometimes when something doesn't work out, it's because we're actually being protected by God. Because what is in the best interests of your higher self absolutely will manifest. And sometimes there's an order to things. So I needed to meet Cameron, fall in love with him, and develop he's my one lifelong relationship before I would end up living in the house of my dreams, because the universe knew I could never live in the house of my dreams without the man of my dreams. One had to precede the other. And I had been so focused on buying myself my dream home even before I was in a relationship with a significant other. That's not the way that the divine works. There is a magic, and it is magnificence. And so in the next gathering, I want you to come with whatever it is that you think is your biggest blocks. So in the next week, notice, what are your limiting beliefs? What are the stories you're telling yourself about why you can't, wouldn't, shouldn't, couldn't, don't, haven't? And we're going to do some energy healing around having that evaporate. That energy is literally just going to be completely sizzled out. It's going to disappear. Right? to try and manifest the life of your dreams that you love living day in and day out is going to require lots of energy work. Now, that's either an extremely strong connection that you have with God, or if you don't have a relationship like that yet, or you don't ever want a relationship like that, that's also okay. But you actually have to have an extremely strong connection with an understanding of quantum physics. Not either or, and is possible. You can have a really committed journey in the realm of quantum physics, as well as be really connected to the divine. And back to the very beginning of this 2 hours, when I was dead clinically and in that past state, in that realm, and I came back, I absolutely know for a fact I was saved by my angels. And I also know that I'm meant to do this work with you. It's what I'm here for. It's what I was born for. And it's what I continue to be allowed to live for. Because every single day when we are in service, we're given another chance, permission to live from the divine. So on that note, go and have some sweet dreams. I'm going to do a little bit of a closing out that'll help you to do that. And then, because I imagine 99.9% of you are actually in North America, then I'll see you here next week. Do email us, support@positiveprime.com, support@positiveprime.com, if you would like to give us some feedback so that we address something next week for you. Or you can tell us if this was entertaining, or you were engaged, or you felt empowered or not, or why not. The more raw and vulnerable you are with us, the better we can serve you next week. And if you actually come up with the realization this coming week that you want some help, and you want one of my special super mixes, you can speak to us about a special super mix. You can actually also speak to us about one-on-one coaching. Let me just go here. I actually have a website that is Serafini Mind Spa. You can actually look at connections with Kim. And you can see down here, there are basically my price list is $300 for 30 minutes. Of coaching, and you can see that there's lots of lovely testimonials. So Patty, before we do our final energy healing, do you want to tell somebody or anybody what it is that you have found in conversations with me, whether it's worth it? Am I worth the $300 for 30 minutes?
Yeah, price is all relative, like anything else. It's what you get out of it. And if you get out of it what you want, and you're in alignment with the person who is giving you their time, their energy, and their depth of knowledge and care, you'll get out of it what you wanted. So I think this question of coaching with Kim is a great follow-up to 2 hours here, because there's so much depth. And every now and then I get a little annoyed when I'm being a friend to Kim and she turns it on me and suddenly she's giving me a coaching. And I can honestly say, when I've been gifted that moment of a coaching moment, I always have something that stops me in my tracks, gives me value, and helps me to move on my path with much more strength and resolve, usually. So I love her honesty. I love her depth. And you know her from this time as well as many others that you may have spent with her. And so is that the answer for what you might want to hear about? Would Kim be worth it as a coach? If you feel connected to Kim tonight or this morning, wherever you are, it's worth it. And I would definitely say that I have been blessed by the serendipity moments, as well as some of the ones that were actual coaching moments, because before I knew Kim very well at all, I paid for her to be my coach. And and look what it led to. Hey, maybe this is a manifestation. I never really thought of it that way, but manifested so much of my own journey through my experiences with Kim, coaching and otherwise. I want to go on that trip with you actually to Africa.
Yeah. Let's make that happen. I reckon you and I could do that really well. Patty and I have actually traveled a lot together. I've spoken
I'd go to
at some events.
Antarctica with you.
Okay. All right.
I'll go there
Awesome.
too. The Northern
Okay.
Lights, stack it up. Yeah, thank
Alrighty. On that note, I love your generosity, Patty. Thank you for allowing me to put you on the spot. I always do that. I put her on the spot. It's good for her. Now I'll tell you the craziest thing about what you just said. Let me just go back here to this, because Mayumi and I created a little bit of a slide. Consultation guidelines with Kim. 1, be open to provocation. Patty, you can laugh out loud now. Look at her face, right? So coaching with me, being mentored by me, being in a healing with me is actually all about allowing my angels, given the messages I get from your angels, to provoke you in uncomfortable ways that actually get you to shift. And sometimes it's actually not fun. Patty, is that true? Sometimes it makes you mad as heck, doesn't it?
Not mad, but I might be gritting my teeth for one
Yeah.
reason or another. Yeah.
Has it been worth it though? Have you shifted?
Yeah, oh, definitely. It definitely is that place of uncomfortability. If you're
I
not
love
angry,
that.
you'll be uncomfortable. And that's where
I
growth
love
is,
it.
and I can witness that, definitely.
Thank you, darling. Alrighty, so we did put together a package that you could have 5 coaching healings that are 30 minutes for $300. So not 1 at $300 for 30 minutes, but 5 for $300. What we also put together was we could help you create your own, let's call it a vision video. The vision video is way more than a mind movie. It's because we do actually have the formula that is Positive Prime. It doesn't actually replace, though, Positive Prime. So you still want to upload your own photographs and choose the sessions that you want. But interestingly enough, Mayumi was like, what should we do, Kim? Should we put that all together as a package? And I said, yeah, sure, if you like. And so she put together this package that's $359 for 5 coaching healing sessions with me. And because it's 1/5 of the cost of 1 30-minute session with me, and I did say to her, I literally have only a limited amount of time. There's only so many people I can fit in, because I actually recommend with any coaching you do with anyone, even if it's not with me or if it is with me, it's like chiropractic appointments. And Dr. Catherine, you would know this. You're better off having 2 sessions your first week, 2 sessions your second week, and 1 session your third week to actually have something really move in your life. So if you're really, really, really stuck on something, then do that. You will receive with a $1 purchase or a $5 purchase the actual gift that we've got. So let me actually, I love this. Mayumi is super lovely. No, this is the registration. Should I put in here? If you want something for $1 or $5 and you want a whole heap of things to think about, of course, the 500 is way more amazing than the 100. And for $5, it's ridiculous. Let me put that link into the chat for you, shall I? Okay. Or maybe you could. That would be awesome. All right, so let's dive into let's dive into a healing, shall we? Oh, no. Okay. What I'm going to do is just ask for the help that I get from the divine, and I'm going to ask that it actually comes and infuses all of you. This is a little bit like a prayer for those of you who have or have not been in one of these before. Just breathe really deeply. You can, if you want, use your hands and place them on your heart. Now, your heart, I should show you a x-ray of my pacemaker anchored into my heart, the leads where they go. So your heart is actually here. It's not over here. The heart is here. Hand on heart. And just start by saying thank you. Now you could be talking to the universe, God, your angels, your guides, your guardians, your ascended masters, those that have already passed, your friends, your family. Just say thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Be in recognition that you cannot live this life without others who support you and encourage you, who have helped shape you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for helping us to think about that which we do really, 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 really want. Thank you for guiding us to notice when something sparks us, where we feel drawn into. Allow us to be aware and conscious enough of that which is calling us in. Thank you, 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 thank you for giving all of us the awareness, the consciousness, the ability to notice. Thank you for letting us see what it is that we need to see, hear what it is that we need to hear, and do what it is that we need to do. Thank you for helping us to become really very awake to the stories that we've been telling ourselves that hold us back from living the lives that we truly want and need. Thank you for allowing us to be really awake to what our limiting beliefs are, so that in that acknowledgement, we are given the opportunity to actually just contemplate the opposite. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for guiding us to whatever will allow us to contemplate beliefs that are empowering, beliefs that are allowing us to expand ourselves. Thank you for the knowing that if something is really important to us, we will find a way. Thank you, thank you, thank you for helping us to really become really cognizant of the resources that we have that help us to achieve what it is that we want to, so that we're on the path towards experiencing that which will truly bring us joy, joyfulness. Thank you for guiding us to the books that we can read that unlock what is necessary so that we know that we are worthy and deserving. Thank you for guiding us towards the people and other resources that help us to advance on our journey. Thank you, 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 thank you for all the signs that help us to know that we're on the right path. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for giving us the courage to say yes to a compelling future. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for giving us this day and for giving us the opportunity to experiencing another day tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Mwah. And here's to another day tomorrow. There's a lot more of that in the 2 hours next week. Lots of us shifting anything that is holding us back. Bring it. Whatever you contribute, I'm absolutely positive, I'm sure It's something else that's in somebody else's energy field or in their mind that also needs to be transmuted, fixed. Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you for being here. Reach out to us, support@positiveprime.com. Love you. Ciao.